We're Cassie.
And Emily.
And this is Book Bits and Chill, a podcast where we talk about books, movies, and pop culture the way that you actually experience them.
This show is for type B readers, people who love stories but don't want the pressure, perfection, or the participation trophies.
Hit follow, grab a drink, and let's talk about it. Is Rites of the Starling actually worth the hype? Or is this one of those sequels that tests your loyalty to a series?
Because the internet is currently losing their mind. We're talking shouting 6-star ratings, crying on camera, and readers begging for book 3.
But we all know that book 2s can be tricky. So today we're breaking it all down.
We're going to start spoiler-free with everything you need to know about the book, who should read it, who shouldn't, if you need to move it up your TBR immediately. And then we'll get into a spoilery book club discussion about everything that left us spiraling, but we'll give you a clear warning before we get there.
So if you just finished Shield of Sparrows, if you're debating jumping into Rites of the Starling, or if you're trying to decide if this series is worth the emotional investment, you're in the right place. All right, let's get into it because I have a lot of thoughts on this book. And we are going to structure this episode a little bit differently, where we're going to actually start with our review and our thoughts on the book. And this will be spoiler free. And then we will get into the actual book club discussion that will be spoiler full, that will be riddled with spoilers. So if you have not read the book, you were debating it, the first part, definitely for you. If you have read the book, first and second parts are fully for you. So let's dive in.
Okay, I think that we both went into this book with kind of low expectations because we know that we have been burned by a book 2 in the past. Like, we all lived through the letdown of Iron Flame. And I think that we've
Brimstone.
And Brimstone. And I think we've come to realize, like, the book 2 of a series is not going to be like the big kapow.
The big kapow.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the big kapow, that's for sure. It's not going to be the big kahuna. There's a lot of pressure on a book 2.
Oftentimes you find people saying this book was boring. It was too much world building. It was too much, like, too many characters, not enough depth into the characters. Like, I think you get that a lot with book 2s. And some people love that and some people really hate that.
So for me, my overarching thoughts on this book were that it did not really feel like a romantasy to me. It felt more like a fantasy that probably like will bridge into a romantasy, if that makes sense. There wasn't a significant romance here. It was not front and center. It's a very plot heavy book. It's a very world building heavy book. It's a much more character driven book than I think we got in Shield of Sparrows. And again, I think that could be really challenging for a lot of people who are, to your point, like in this genre for life.
I agree with you, but I said the same thing about Shield of Sparrows when I was reading it. I was like, I love that it's not like all about the romance, and people came for me in the comments. They were literally like, what do you mean it's not about the romance? We're literally obsessed with like the main male character of Shield of Sparrows. And then in the second book, we're introduced to a new couple and they're literally like, they are our shining star. So like, I do think that a lot of people find it romance heavy. It's just not spicy.
No, but it's like, it's insta-love, realistically, and you will see if you read this book what I'm talking about. Like, there was no build-up to this new romance that was in this book. It was very much like, we met and we were immediately in love, and then all of these things happened after. And I don't think it's because of the romance. I think it's because people came to love the characters themselves.
I could see that. But I do think, like, kind of what you're saying is that you think that romantasy readers would miss the romance part because it's so plot heavy. But I also think romantasy readers love to theorize. And this is so much theorizing just in this one book. And then there's like a whole nother book to theorize after, that I still think like the people that were going crazy for the Metal Slinger cliffhanger last year would literally go wild for this.
Yeah, I struggle to compare anyone that loved Metal Slinger to anything because that book was so tough.
I think that's who this is for because we felt like you felt similarly to that book where there wasn't really much going on for like
No, that book
75% of
had
the.
no plot.
Yeah.
This book at least had a plot. It was a
Yeah.
very slow plot, but there was a plot and there was cool magic. The monsters were really cool. And again, the character development was really, really good. I just don't think if people are coming in expecting this like extension of the romance from book one or this new big beautiful romance that they're going to be like addicted to, I don't know that you're gonna get that. I'm gonna be honest.
So who do you think you should read this? Because I've yet to hear you say that.
I do think the people that should read this are anyone who's just read Shield of Sparrows, obviously, because
Hmm.
that's like a quick, like, whatever. Or people who were obsessed with the book last year. Like, I do think it's a good follow-up for sure. I don't think that people who were like, I liked Shield of Sparrows, I was mid on it, whatever. Like, I don't think anyone like that should rush into this book realistically. And then
Yeah,
I also think if you are a casual romantasy reader, I feel like you should just wait until the whole series is out, honestly,
100%.
and then just like read them all together. I do think like if you are reading all of these back to back to back, or even if you loved Shield of Sparrows and this is something that you were really excited for, I think the payoff is 100% there. And I think the way that she wrote this book was so
Yeah.
unique that there are two POVs that you are thrown into. And they're from two very compelling main characters. And I really loved that. Like, I loved getting to know this new character. It felt very, which I texted Em this when I started, like, it felt very much like Throne of Glass when you're like thrown into Manon's POV out of nowhere. And you're like, wait,
Hmm.
who is this person? But then you end up falling in love with them. Like, I loved that aspect of it. And then again, it's like she's so good at writing magic systems that are unbelievably unique. She's so good with these monsters. Like, the monsters are so cool. I
Yeah.
love them so much. And then her world building is incredible.
I loved the world building in this so much. And I think like some people had mentioned that that was the part that felt slow was when they were traveling. And I literally was painting this whole story in my head that I was just having so much fun with. So I personally loved all the world building, but I
Yeah,
know that that's part of why some people like hate a book too.
totally agree. Okay, let's get into our final rating. So, recommendability. I think I would probably give it like a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I really struggle with a series. Every time we talk about series, I'm like, how
I
do
know.
you recommend a book to in a series? I think it's exactly how I said. Like, if you've already read Shield of Sparrows, like, yeah, just give it a go. Like, why not a 5? But if you haven't read Shield of Sparrows, like, maybe a 2 because wait for the whole series to be out next year.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Spice meter. I would give this probably a 1 out of 5.
Yeah, I agree. Like there I can't even like remember specifics of the spice scenes. There was like one or two or I think.
Yeah, but it felt very like mild,
Yeah. It definitely was, which was
which is
kind of
fine.
surprising because Devney Perry's a contemporary romance writer, and I've never read any of her
I
contemporary
know.
romance, but I imagine there's like spice in them.
I know. Maybe she's just addicted to fantasy, which honestly support. I love that for her. Okay, Hangover. I would say mine was like a 1 out of 5.
I actually want to say that my hangover was pretty bad. I didn't know
Oh,
what book to pick up after. I tried to pick up another romantasy book after, and I
yeah,
was like, I can't, after all of the world building I just took in from this book, I can't jump into a whole new fantasy world. So I had to
that's
switch
fair.
genres and I picked
Yeah,
up a romance book. And so
yeah.
I think that would like make my hangover maybe like a 3.5 if I had to switch genres.
Yeah, that makes sense. You needed a palate cleanser.
I needed a
So
palate cleanser.
that's a big hangover. Okay, book club potential. I think this is similar to what you were saying. Like, I think with
Yeah.
series, I'm like, I would not recommend this series to a book club, realistically.
Like if you're a romantasy book club, you should 100% have this on the table. But like
Yeah,
if you're just dabbling in all genres, like maybe just stick to, the regulars, the Onyx Storm and
yeah,
the next
yeah,
Akatar book.
exactly. Okay, final rating. I'm very
Final rating is really tough for me because I've really been going back and forth on this. I
okay.
I am loving the series. I'm loving the
Yeah.
series.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But like the book itself, like maybe I would give it like a 3.75 to a 4, like maybe closer to a
Wow.
4.
Okay.
But like from a series perspective as part of the whole, I would give it a higher rating.
Okay. So the book itself is a 3.75 to a 4.
To a 4, maybe closer
Okay.
to a 4. It's just so hard to disconnect it for me.
What
It
did
really
what did
is.
you rate Shield of Sparrows?
Probably a 4. So like all
Well, okay.
together, like maybe it would just like average out to a 4.
You're consistently rating these books 4 on
Yeah,
their
but there
own.
was like just like a couple of things I was very mad about at the end, which we'll get into, that is like making me take the quarter away.
Okay, that's fair. I think I would probably give this book a 3,
Okay.
realistically, which I think I gave Shield of Sparrows maybe a 4, I want to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was again a good follow-up. It wasn't something that like trumped Shield of Sparrows for me by any means. I think it was a good continuation, but I'm definitely a 3, which I'll get into exactly why, because there were a lot of things where I was like, okay. But I do think from a series standpoint, to your point, I do think rounding out this story is going to be really good. And I think I'll
Yeah.
probably have a higher rating for the series. This book was just very mid for me.
You know, we've seen a lot of people, like we said earlier, saying like this is a 6-star book on the internet. But let me
Yeah.
tell you, I have peeked behind the curtain and tested a large audience, and a lot of people are actually saying that they liked Shield of Sparrows better.
Yeah, 100, which makes complete sense. Like anyone who's calling this a 6 star, I'm like, we'll get into why I think those motivations are and like what I think they are, but I don't think that those are relatable reviews and relatable ratings.
Yeah, I
To your
don't think
point, to
so
the
either.
general public's opinion. So we'll get into it. But again, if you are someone who has not read this, you hopefully should now know if you should read it or you should not read it. If you have read it, we are about to get into the nitty-gritty on why we just rated this book 3 and 3.75 stars.
Maybe 4.
No, she's a 3.75. Let's all hold her
Maybe 4.
accountable to the things that she said. And it's 3.75. We have to hear about the quarter that was docked off.
Oh, I'm still like,
Uh,
I think I'm like upset.
why? You are literally the one every single time that we rate books and you rate something a 3, you're always like, it's a good rating. Let me start and preface with this, a 3 is a good rating every single time. It's like clockwork every time she rates something a 3.
Think that the reason, and okay, so this is kind of the big point that we are going to start with in the spoilery section, is like the character driven plot of this book. And I loved these characters. I
Yeah.
didn't always love what they were doing. I think that's what made me upset. Is like, why did that have to be like that? But like,
Yeah.
I loved all of these characters. Like, I was invested in every side character, every main character. Like, I
Yeah.
loved the group of warriors. I loved all of the
Yeah.
people we met in the towns along the way. Like, I was eating up the character driven storyline.
Agreed. Agreed. I totally agree. And like I said, I think that was a really unique way of writing this story of like not just having the two POVs, but the two POVs on the different timelines. And then you're trying to stitch that together as you're falling in love with these different characters on these different timelines. Like it was so good. And I really liked how she introduced the Starlings and the Mavens. And then you have the fucking Vosters.
Yeah.
Voisters? Vosters?
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 Vosters.
I don't know. Those people, it's like you have all, and then the townspeople who don't know that the Crux migration is actually coming early. It's
Yes.
like literally, it felt like Odessa was basically Paul Revere for like
Yes.
literally 400 pages out of this book, while Caspia is like first on this journey to find her cousin or to find, yeah, her sister. And then she
Yeah.
like loses her cousin. And then she's like, oh, I gotta avenge both these girls. And then she falls in love. And then she's like, oh, now I'm just on this journey with my man. And it's like,
Wait,
okay.
so when the POV dropped for Caspia in chapter 3, I actually really appreciated that, because I feel like
Yeah.
book twos, well, like the first quarter, it's like oh, we're sitting in our house that we ended book one in, talking about everything that happened in book
Yeah.
one and
Yep.
like recapping. And it's like, it doesn't ever keep my attention. So when she dropped this new POV and everybody was confused, nobody knew who she was, where we were, what timeline we were on, I was like, I'm ready for this new challenge.
100%. Okay, we need to talk about the plot twist, obviously, first, because everything revolves around that. When was the point that you realized that this was happening?
What was happening?
That
Which
they were on
plot
two
twist?
separate timelines and that Caspia was actually Odessa's mom.
I knew they were on two separate timelines this entire book. I thought
Yeah.
they were 300 years apart. I had no idea they were on a close timeline. I thought Caspia was like the original Swift that was ever created.
What? And you just thought they were super old and Emery just like happened to get killed by Ransom like 300 years later?
Well, I didn't know that Emery got killed by Ransom until the very end.
Wait, the whole thing that kicked off her journey was that she had the vision of Emery getting killed by a silver-eyed warrior.
I didn't know who the silver-eyed warrior was. I didn't know. I did not know that Emery was the one that was killed until the end.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not
No
kidding.
way, Emily. Who did you think the silver-eyed warrior was?
I didn't know who anybody was. Literally didn't know what time we were in, how many silver-eyed. I didn't know if Ransom was part of some silver-eyed lineage that there was hundreds of him. I had no idea. So I thought that Emery was really old too. Yes, confirmed.
Okay, all right.
Let me tell you,
Okay,
Cassie, I will tell you now. Now
tell
I
me.
see where you're headed because now I
Tell me.
understand where your mind's at. I did not know a single thing that was happening until the chapter where Caspia's like, Margot, stop pulling my hair at the very end. I think it's literally with 10 chapters left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Margot! And then she's like, Margot keeps looking over at my husband like she likes him. And I'm like, Andreas, you're the king. I was losing my shit. If I went back and reread this whole book, it would be an entirely different book for me.
I mean, yeah, it would. It would be a completely different book. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense. Like, so I think the initial plot twist of the like timelines being different was very predictable, like in my mind. Like, you knew, obviously, you didn't know how
Mm-hmm.
far or close the timelines were, but you
Yeah.
knew that they were different.
Yeah.
So that one, but I do agree. The whole like Caspia actually being Odessa's mom and like the also Xandria being the monster, the bear wolf that actually bit
Yeah.
Ransom, all of that stuff was, I agree, like way, way harder to pick up on. But I think what the part that got me where I was like, oh, she has to be Odessa's mom was what I was talking about earlier about Andreas's relationship with Caspia being so fucking quick and being kind of an insta love situation. And I was like, why the fuck do they need to fall in love this fucking quickly? And I
Because
was
they
like,
needed to have a
they
baby.
need to have a baby. They need to get pregnant. And that baby
Never
is
thought of that.
Odessa.
I never thought of that. I was like, this is Odessa's great 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 grandmother. I was like, we still aren't going to know who Odessa's mom is by the end of this.
No, I was like, literally, Devney has to wrap this up in like 400 more pages. So, like, of course, Caspia all of a sudden woke up and she's like, oh, wow, I'm like looking at this man with lust and hunger and whatever. And then it's like, boom, they're in love. And I
So
was
you
like,
know that
oh,
a lot of people also did not realize that Xandra was the werewolf that bit Ransom. Like I broke that news to like 7 different people this morning.
wait, like people that had finished and they didn't know still?
Yeah, they were like, "What are you
Really?
talking about?" Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess there was a lot going on at the end where it's like that, I guess, out of
Yes.
all of the plot twists that happened, might have been the smallest one, I suppose.
Yes.
But I did think like when Xandra clearly became this like alpha bear wolf when Caspia like jumped in the ravine or whatever, I was
Hmm.
like, she's about to be that one-eyed fucking bear wolf that like can speak to all the bear wolves and whatever. And so
Damn, you're
that
so
one,
smart. I didn't even know that Xandra was a confirmed werewolf at that point. I was like, did she get eaten, dragged away? Like, has anybody seen her as a wolf? Like, I need confirmation.
did anyone see her as a wolf? Has anyone gotten
Wait, a
eyes on
bear? Like,
Sandra?
I guess she's a bear.
A bear and a wolf.
So that is actually where like my quarter kind of got taken away was
Yeah,
how many threads got tied up so quickly at the very end. So like,
yeah,
we're hanging on to this whole book, these two storylines just waiting to figure out when they're going to converge. And then
yeah,
it's like the last 10 chapters, every single thing that happened in this book converges.
yeah.
And I feel like we could have gotten some of that like a little earlier on.
For sure. Like Ransom randomly showing up in a battle and then like that's how him and Odessa come together. I was like, wait, what? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? And then to your point, it's like, oh, all of this stuff with Caspia and Andreas being Odessa's parents like clicks immediately, but then it's also happening at the same time that all of these other things are happening. And then they're trying to find these eggs and they find that and like the not eggs, whatever those ball things are,
Yeah.
they're trying to find those. That happens in like one fucking chapter. She introduces a new monster out of nowhere in like one chapter. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, why? Why? Why
The
couldn't this have
end,
happened within the first 90% of the book?
yeah, the end felt very rushed. I think they could have had what were they calling them? Globes or orbs? They were calling them orbs.
Orbs, orbs. I
I
kept
feel like
picturing
they
them
could have,
as the orbs from Harry Potter.
yeah, the
That's what I called it.
Horcruxes.
Remember that? No, remember the eggs in the Goblet of Fire that they like had to
Oh,
take
yeah, yeah,
underwater?
yeah.
That's why I kept picturing them as eggs.
I was immediately thinking of them as Horcruxes since they were like tied to somebody's like life.
Yeah. Yeah. All these
But
voicers. What do you know?
I think that they could have introduced Caspia and Andreas trying to find those orbs like way earlier in the book. Like that could
For
have
sure.
been like a huge part of the plot.
For sure. So, hot take. Here's my hot take.
Okay.
I think that Caspia and Andreas's story should have been a separate novella in between book one, Shield of Sparrows, and whatever book three is going to be. And it should have been a story solely focused on them. We could have had
Okay.
their full romance. We could have really, really got invested in them as characters and their romance and all of their things. To your point, we could have really fleshed out this like hunt for these orbs. Like
Mm,
there could have been all of these things fully fleshed out. We could have probably learned more about Xandra becoming a bear wolf, like learned
yeah.
all of we would have learned more about the Rites and like the backstory there and all of that stuff. And then you get into book three after the huge plot twist at the end of book two, or whatever. I don't know where you started, but then you finish the series there and
I
boom,
actually can see what you're saying. I don't know if I would go as far as saying novella, but like it could have been
give them
book
a
two.
novella.
Oh my God. It could have been book two without the dual POV switch. But then can you imagine we get the
The
book three and
uproar.
it's Odessa's and it's like the same timeline. And then everybody's like, this is how you tandem read these books. You have to read 2 chapters in this one and 7 chapters in that one. And then it's like, well, okay, maybe she should have just done 2 POVs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have definitely been ended up if it was a full second book, it would have been like a Tower of Dawn situation where to your
Yeah.
point, people would have been like, you have to hack the read in some weird way. But at the same time, like I wish that we had more screen time from them alone, page time from them alone. And to
Mhm.
really like if we would have gotten that, I would have fully been sobbing at the ending
Yeah.
with Andreas killing Caspia, like that would have crushed me. But it didn't at the end of this because I was like, oh my God, I loved them. But like, okay,
I
like
actually
it's
agree
sad.
with you. I think
Oh, good.
that I I think that I also wasn't really that sad at the end because they didn't really make me fall in love with Caspia and Andreas. I specifically
Right.
loved Caspia. Like I was
Me
really
too.
into Caspia and her like
Me too.
female matriarchal lineage. Like I loved that
Right.
part. And so
Right.
like I was sad that she was losing her daughter. And I think
Right.
maybe that's what
Yes.
people were crying about was that she just like lost her daughter. That's what I've decided.
Maybe, I guess. But like,
And less
even
Andreas.
that, unless Andreas, I guess. But it's like Andreas had her like afterwards for like 2 days while he's mourning her and whatever. And it's like, if we would have had more time with them two together as characters, like, oh my God, that would have taken me out. But then that would have been such a cool tee up for the third book because then you're like, oh my God, I have this completely new point of view on this king,
Yeah.
Andreas, who
Yeah.
we hate normally. We hated him in Shield of Sparrows, and now it's like, oh, I have a completely different view on this man.
Yeah, I 100% can see what you're saying. And honestly, I would love to hear the crowd reactions to that because you're kind of convincing me. Because I didn't really love Andreas in the book. I was kind of like
No,
mid on him.
he kind of seemed like he was like love bombing her a little bit. And I was like, I probably wouldn't feel this way if I would have had more time with them in the cabin, for example. Like,
Yeah,
if I would have understood how he saved her in the ravine or whatever, like
right.
all of these things, like if we would have had that, I would have been probably very team Andreas, like probably maybe over Ransom, honestly.
Honestly, I'm not a big like ransom gal either. And for me, just love the females, like I said. And
Yeah,
Odessa's growth in this book was really fun to read. Like
it
when she
was.
starts like talking back to her dad at the end and being like, "I'm gonna tell you how this goes. I'm in
Yeah,
charge now. I'm not weak. I've like found my own voice." And then at the same time, I feel like Caspia was like finding out so much about herself through like all of
yeah.
this research. And I just like loved the female rebirth.
Agreed. Agreed. This was a book for the girls, and I
Yeah.
did really love that. But that's why I mentioned earlier, I'm like, I don't know that we can sit here and say like, oh, this was like a romantasy, you know?
Yeah.
Like this felt like a really good fantasy with some very strong female leads. And I still love that. I'm still
Yeah.
here for that. But that
I
doesn't
think
feel like a romantasy to me.
think that it is a fantasy romance, which we've been learning recently that we
True.
need to be more specific about our genres so that our recommendations come correct.
True. Exactly. We need to set expectations.
I do think it's a fantasy romance, which means
Yes.
it's fantasy heavy with a romance subplot.
My last comment that I'll make on the romance, the random throw in of the like Jody character and like,
Ah, stop it! I love Jody.
oh my God, that pissed me off like none other. I was like, she is clearly using him as this like filler for like the banter and the like smirks and the side eye and the whatever. And like, I did not like that. I was like, what the fuck? Like, just give us a random ransom chapter. I don't know. Like, why are we randomly getting this Jody guy when we're like, this is not
Oh
going
my God.
anywhere?
Did you ever read Six of Crows?
No.
Okay, in Six of Crows, it's all about this like band of misfits that
Yeah.
then is like a side group. They start off as like a side group to the main characters and they end up getting their own story because they're so awesome. And they're just
But
like this random band of misfits that end up coming together. And
yeah.
that's how I saw the Mavens and I was like eating that
Yeah.
up. I loved every
Agreed.
single Maven.
Agreed. I would love it if they had a spin-off story. Like they would
Maybe a
be
novella
maybe a novella. She
about how they
does
got where they were.
She needs to throw in some novellas here. I'm sorry. I'm like, I either make them 1700 page books or throw in a novella here or there because holy shit. It's like you're doing this setup of these amazing characters, these different worlds and groups and whatever, and then you're not really giving them that much of justice like that they
Yeah,
deserve. Like to your point, these mavens, I'm like, I would read a full other book about them in a heartbeat. I would read something about Jody. I actually think him as a character was very funny, but I didn't like the way that he was used.
I
And so I'm
see
like,
what you're saying. Okay,
I
I
would
see what you're
like
saying.
that. I would like that in isolation. I did not like that as like a replacement while Ransom was like not on this journey with her.
I was low-key more sad about the two lovers and the mavens that like lost each other during that
Yeah,
one attack than I was about the end of the book. Like I was so sad for them.
I know. I just like really liked this vibe where they're like, we work for no one and under no law and whatever. And I think that would be like a very fun story to read about.
Do you
So,
want to know my hot take?
eh, of
I,
course,
and this is part of my quarter that I took off. I feel like
the
these
quarter's still
three,
there.
the quarter is like floating in the universe.
Literally.
I think that these three books are going to end up being like very independent of each other, and there's not enough like crossover between the three. Like
Interesting. Yeah, I could
when
see that.
I'm thinking about how excited I am about like the orb side quest in the
Yeah,
third book, but like the whole third book is going to be about the orb side quest.
right.
And if
And
she
then
would have made
randomly wrap
50,
up.
yeah, and so if she would have made 50% of Rites of the Starling about the orbs, wrapped that up in book three, and then also wrapped up something that happened in book one and book three, like that would be good, but it's kind of starting to feel like it's going to be like three very separate things.
I totally agree. Like three very different stories that like she'll somehow connect at the end of book three, and it's
Well,
gonna be
be
weird.
Alisaria. That's what
Ah,
the connector is going to be from book one to book
true.
three. One of the
You're right.
orbs is in Alisaria. That's why
You're
she never
right.
got to go to Alisaria. And then
Yep.
that's where the king is going to be with all his Lysa soldiers. And
Yep.
he's going to stand up against them, and they're going to have to take them down with probably the Vosters.
Wow. Wow. Is this a firm prediction for the end of book three?
They're going to have all the blue robed Vosters. I
She
did
won't
think
say.
I actually did really like the mini revolution within the Vosters, like the
Agreed.
Vosters that didn't believe
And the high
in the real
priest.
magic. Yeah, I kind
Yeah.
of did love that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I thought that was really interesting. Again, and like she writes really cool magic, like very
Hmm.
unique magic systems and very unique ways that these characters use magic. Like I really, really love what she does there. And like I genuinely feel like the plot twists that she had in there, like were less of plot twists to me, and the magic stuff was more of the plot twists, where I was like, I did not see the Vosters like being involved in this way, or I did not know that like the orbs got created in this way, or I didn't like those were the things for me where I was like, oh, holy shit, what? Whoa.
Yeah,
Like I don't think I realized that like the land was like was the cursed thing, and like that's why the Crux were going crazy. Like I didn't know any of that stuff. And so like genuinely those were the things where I was like, but the mom thing, I was like, okay. Yeah,
okay, but now that you hear how shocked I was at the end, can you see how maybe I enjoyed this story more than you?
for sure.
Like, I was so shocked
Totally.
when she said Margot. I about lost my mind.
I mean, that is the Metal Slinger complex. Like, that
Yeah.
is exactly what happened in Metal Slinger. That's why everyone loved that book because, to your point, like, it's just fun to be that shocked and to be that taken aback by something where you're like, how did I not realize this when it was in front of my face for this long,
Yeah.
And so, like, I totally get that. But I don't know. I liked that my plot twists were, more subtle. Or
Yeah,
just the
I
magic.
agree. I was so convinced that they were 300 years apart that I thought Koss, which I really liked the Koss storyline too. I
Yeah.
thought that was really sweet. I thought that Koss was going to be brother dying. Cassie, that's how far gone I was.
She's literally plotting out family lines to the level of Game of Thrones.
I truly was. Okay, so
Wait,
now
is that thought that there was like potential for like incest in these timelines?
I literally thought that I was so confused because at one point I didn't understand Caspia's silver-eyed premonitions, obviously. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, Caspia is going to meet a man with silver eyes and have a baby with him. And then Odessa's also with a guy with silver eyes. And so are they actually second cousins and they're really doing it right now?
Makes so much more sense now. When I
Yes.
saw you say that, I was like, what does she mean? Like, I think it's pretty clear that there is no overlap in these family lines
Yeah.
whatsoever.
I definitely thought that Caspia was going to have like hooked up with one of Ransom's relatives at some point, and I thought that Caspia was her
Okay.
great great grandmother.
Okay, this makes a lot more sense. Also, did you catch that you know that journal entry that Odessa reads that is like about this woman, a red-haired woman in a cage or in jail or something, I can't remember. And a man who had like three fingers on his hand.
Okay, no.
Oh, okay.
Tell
Well,
me
that was
more.
Emery and Max.
How are you talking about? How do we even know Max has three fingers? Does he
Yeah,
get them eaten by a
we're not.
monster earlier
No.
in the book?
No.
I'm serious.
I think it was described at some point in the book that he had
I
like
did
lost.
not even remember by the end of the book that Max was a part of the story. I was like, who the fuck is Max?
But that's exactly my point of like, oh my God, there she throws so much into this book. Like that to me was almost a like Brimstone thing that she did, where
Yeah.
she really went crazy with a lot of things in the story where I was like, did you need to throw that in? Maybe
Do
not.
you know what I really didn't like that I feel like you didn't either? When she did that like 20-year time jump by doing a one paragraph italic look back to her mother's conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like,
I was
yo,
like,
what?
I was like, Emery's alive? I was like, Emery's alive? And who is her mother? I didn't even know she had a mom.
Oh my God, I know. There
Wait,
was
so
so much of that.
who do you think Caspia's mom is?
Ooh, I don't know.
I
I don't
really
think I
can't
spent any
puzzle that
time
one.
thinking about that now that I think about it.
I have no idea who her mom is.
Yeah, I don't
And
either.
I really don't, and I'm trying to still puzzle like how the serum for the Lysa is going to be created, because at the
Yeah,
end Odessa's like, you need to use my spit because my spit is from the Swift lineage, and the Swifts are like the original crux that
yeah.
might have the Lysa. I'm not really sure about the science there.
I don't know either, honestly. I think by the end, again, to your earlier point, like there was just so many things that she was throwing in there to like tee up book three that I was like, I'm picking up on maybe 70% of this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like I
at best.
they introduced that wonderful healer while
Yeah.
they're in Quentis that I was like obsessed with, and she was so cool, and it's like
Hmm.
she's going to be the one to figure this out, and it's like I could have used like some more time with her.
Yeah. I would like to sit with the healer
Yeah.
for a little
Like
bit longer.
I need her to explain to me like the science behind this
Or
disease.
I just needed like Odessa to spend more time in the library. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I needed more there, but I have no idea how they are going to, how Devney is going to wrap up this cure, honestly. Like, it's not clicking in my brain.
I just have to say one more funny thing.
Yeah.
Some of our followers were cracking me up. They were like, I thought that they were on the same timeline, like
Yeah.
literally the exact same timeline.
Yeah.
And they thought they were both in the castle in Quintus together and just kept missing each other in the hallways. It's like,
There's my
that would
mom.
be crazy if Andreas, Ransom, Caspia,
Yeah. Yeah.
Odessa,
All
all the kings,
converge.
all the queens were all in the castle together. I was cracking up, and they were laughing too. They were like, I was so lost in the sauce and the vibes. They were like,
It's
I was
fair.
just fully vibe reading. And I was like,
No,
to be
that's
honest,
fair.
so was I.
That's fair. I could totally see people thinking it was on the same timeline. They were at Quintus at the same time. Maybe they were sisters and maybe they were missing each other. Like I could
Yeah.
see how all of that would come to light. But honestly, by the time that they were in Quintus at the same time and not running in together, I was like, okay, this is the clearest proof that they are, one of them is in the future and one of them is in the past.
Yeah. That's how
And
I
that's
felt
it.
too.
But yeah, no, it was confusing. So I totally get it. The one thing that I will say is like the inclusion of Evie,
Yeah.
I struggled with because I was like, this child is 4 years old
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
she's obviously having to hold all these secrets, whatever, at a minimum. But then she's also like on this journey with Odessa for
Yeah.
60% of the book, and like they're having traumatic things happen to them. And I just didn't love that.
loved the journey, but I do agree about the Evie part. I at one point was like, do I need to call CPS on Devney? Like when she was like, when Odessa was passed out for 2 days and
Yeah,
Evie was left with that random
yeah,
foster, I was like, can you
yeah,
imagine what that would feel like at 4 years old? That your
yeah,
only safe space is literally dead to the world and you're left
yeah,
with some random man in
yeah.
a robe.
Name
Like
brother score.
yeah, I just felt like really like sick to my stomach and
I did
uncomfortable
not
about like
like
the
that.
situation she was in. I was really sad about that. I don't know,
Yeah,
but like I guess where else would she have been, do you think?
I don't know. That's the hard part. I get why she was there. I get it. But I feel like that's why I also wanted the journey to just like stop because I was like, enough.
Yeah.
Justice for Evie.
Yeah, the Evie storyline really rubbed me the wrong way a couple of times. I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I
You don't
was
know
over
what
it.
that
I was
inclusion's
over it.
about. You never
Yeah.
know what an author's been through in their personal life
True.
that maybe they needed to include in a book
True.
because of like
True.
catharsis. So
True.
like
True.
I won't talk too much on it because I have never experienced something like that, but
True.
it
But
was a tough read.
speaking of the author, I just have
Hmm.
to give her so many props because the fact that she's a contemporary romance author and she's again basically writing a very fantasy heavy fantasy romance series in this way is so impressive. Like again, I think that the things that are strongest about this book are the fantasy elements, and she is up there. Like, she
Yeah.
is writing this stuff like in a pro level way, and it is
Yeah.
so impressive.
I actually really like her writing style. I think it's like really easy to digest for me. Like
Yeah,
it's not too like poetic or like fluffy. It's like
right.
an easy read. Like I'm not having to like reread sentences over and over again to understand what's happening. Like and it did make me want to read some of her contemporary romance. I was like,
Yeah.
I get it, Devney. I get the hype.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. No, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think just all of it with her, I'm like, this is really, really good. It's just shocking to me because she is a romance writer and she's writing these books that are like maybe 5 to 10% romance total,
I've
you know?
seen people say online that know Devney from a contemporary romance perspective and are not romantasy readers. They
Yeah.
read these books because they love Devney
Yeah.
and they were like, we actually like loved the way she wrote fantasy. Like they were like, we're
Yeah.
interested in fantasy now because of the way Devney wrote it. So
Yeah, I
props
think
to her.
props to her. She wrote it in a very approachable way, but again, in
Yeah.
a way that like did not really sacrifice much. Like she did it in a very unique way. She's not like playing into the standard tropes 24/7, like leaning on shoddy writing, like just to like get a quick hit on book talk or whatever. Like I
Yeah.
think she like really did some like very solid diligence with this writing. So it's just like it's very impressive.
Which is kind of crazy that she's also pumping out these books year after year. Like the
I
third
know.
book we already know is coming out next March.
I know. Crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy. We'll see if Emily's prediction for the ending is spot on or not.
It's all going down in Alisaria. Heard here first.
Meet us in Alisaria next March. We'll see you there. All right, I think that wraps up our coverage on Rites of the Starling. Would love to hear what you all think. So please sound off in the comments if you agree with us, disagree with us. You're like, you guys are crazy, anything, let us know. And next week, we have a very exciting guest joining us. We're so
Woo!
pumped. Nisha J. Tooley is coming on to chat with us about her amazing series, Trial of the Sun Queen, Artifacts of Oranos series, actually.
Yeah.
And her new book that's coming out in early May called Stormbreaker. So you won't
Oh
want to miss
yeah.
that. It's a good one.
Well, until then, we'll see you same time, same place. Bring your blankets, bring your book boyfriends, and we'll see you then.
See ya.